This is the secret story of nutmeg.
Oh, it's not even an emotion, is it? It's just a core function of us.
Of us, yes. It's our most core of the functions. Our first thing we do with anybody ever says anything to us or we ever do anything, it is whether our minds care or don't care.
For centuries, the seed of the Mystrica fragrance tree, nutmeg, also known as muscat, has been sought after by people all over the world for its perceived medicinal and magical powers. It has been called the spice of life, or the spice of kings. Thought to have cured the plague, have aphrodisiac qualities, and even cure flatulence, nutmeg was considered a symbol of wealth and status over thousands of years, instigating the birth of capitalism, globalism, and violent genocide and war. But why was this spice really so valuable? The answer may surprise you. Nutmeg's qualities and its story could be just what we need to cure our modern-day ailments. We want to explore its incredible history and the mystery that surrounds its real value to society over time. Welcome to the secret story of nutmeg, the mysteries and histories of a seed that shaped the world.
So, Trad, why do you want me to tell or help you tell this story now?
Because I can see that it causes wars. And that same war is back upon us. It's returned. And without knowledge of the one great thing that can save all of us is why we keep returning to the same position all the time, mate. It's, if you don't know your history, then you're doomed to repeat it, We don't know our history. And this is the hidden part of our history that we need to know to stop repeating the cycle.
Trad and I have made a deal, a trade. That's why you're listening to this podcast. Well, I hope you still are. Trad had a story he'd been following, the story of nutmeg, which changed his life. And so I, willing to listen and may be able to help, offered to, and we made an exchange. A little coin for my time to explore the story and try to convince myself as much as anybody that this path was worth exploring, while packaging this journey into what it is here today, this podcast. In order to do this, we both have had to have some self-compassion. We have had to have the willingness to support ourselves, to have the confidence to make the trade. If I had no love for myself, care for myself, self-worth in effect, how could I make the exchange? If Trad had also none of this, I dare say I would never have heard his story. We do not hear the stories from people lacking in self-esteem. Often we hear too many stories from those who esteem themselves a little bit too much. If you lack self-esteem, which I have at times, it's hard to feel confident in your story. Trade relies on confidence. Confidence in yourself, confidence in the other. It's mutually benefiting, or it should be. From the father of economics, Scottish philosopher Adam Smith's 1776's An Inquiry into the Nature and Cause of the Wealth of Nations, he writes, Nobody ever saw a dog make a fair and deliberate exchange of one bone for another with another dog. Nobody ever saw one animal by its gestures and natural cries signify to another, "This is mine, that yours, I am willing to give this for that." But man has almost constant occasion for the help of his brethren, and it is in vain for him to expect it from their benevolence only. He will be more likely to prevail if he can interest their self-love in his favour, and show them that it is for their own advantage to do for him what he requires of them. Whoever offers to another a bargain of any kind proposes to do this. "Give me that which I want, and you shall have this which you want," is the meaning of every such offer. And it is in this manner that we obtain from one another the far greater part of those good offices which we stand in need of. It is not from the benevolence of the butcher, the brewer, or the baker that we expect our dinner, but from their regard to their own self-interest. We address ourselves not to their humanity, but to their self-love, and never talk to them of our own necessities, but of their advantages. If there is no trade, then there is fighting, possibly even war, as parties just take from each other. But for the most part, we don't. We have some empathy towards what the other wants, and so we trade. And this journey so far for me about nutmeg, maybe I'm digging and looking for answers to questions I didn't even know I had so far, is about trade. Because that is the route I am following. The spice trade route. But it is showing me some simple truths about the way the world works. Who is benefiting the most? Why some parts of this world are constantly at war and others aren't? Follow the trade. Or the lack of it. So, where were we? The Portuguese have been navigating their way around Africa for nearly a century, developing the transatlantic slave trade along the way, shipping people to South America and then goods from there to Europe, profiting greatly from this and funding more expeditions further east to find the spices. They eventually got to India in an expedition led by Vasco da Gama. And now they are as close as they have ever been, by ship, to the source. Now, while all this was happening, years earlier, the King of Portugal, in English we will call him John II, had been sending spies to the Middle East, India, and the east coast of Africa to find information on ways to get to the Spice Islands. Two such men were Pero de Corvia and Afonso de Paiva. Paiva disappeared in what is now known as Ethiopia, but Corvia reached Goa a full 10 years before Vasco da Gama. He sailed from the African continent in a dhow to get there. It is believed that Vasco da Gama reached India based on the initial intelligence from that mission. There were other spies. Espionage was rife along the trade routes. Any information a merchant could get to advantage their trades was highly sought after. And so da Gama landed in or near Calicut on the Malabar coast of India, most likely guided there by a pilot picked up from where Kenya now is in Africa. It was no accident, of course, that Calicut was a major spice trading port. The intelligence was good. They were getting closer to the source of nutmeg, and as a bonus, they were at the source of pepper, another sought-after spice. This region in India had been a hotbed of trading for a very, very long time. The Romans regularly traded in the region. Yeah, I know. Well, I do know now. The Roman writer Pliny the Elder wrote about Muziris, a trading town there. Traders from China also visited it for its spices. However, there seemed to be whispers that the region had been a trading post for over 3,000 years. I am trying to find more information on this, but however long it may have been, this place was a hot spot for trade. It was from here the Portuguese heard of the next port of call they needed to find to reach the source of the spice. Malacca. 40 days sailing away. Malacca was the centre of what we now call the Malay world, even though it was a relatively new city. Set up by Sumatran king Parameswara, who fled his homeland in around 1396. It was within 5 years or so being visited by Chinese traders with a view to help set it up as a commercial hub for trade with the north via the Malay Peninsula, Arab, Persian and Indian traders via the Indian Ocean, and for the elusive treasures bought by the Bugis from the Spice Islands. Those treasures being cloves and nutmeg. By the way, you may have heard of the old term, the boogeyman. There's quite a bit of evidence to suggest that the Bugis people of the Malacca region were the actual boogeymen of old. The Bugis were a people from South Sulawesi, in what we now call Indonesia. They were incredible seafarers and amazing boat builders. Quite possibly one of the reasons why nutmeg and cloves made it out of the area in the first place was because of their amazing seafaring skills. They were also much feared and formidable pirates, especially when the Europeans arrived. They were a thorn in their side and earned the name Boogeyman. The daughter of the Ming Emperor of China was brought over to marry the Sultan of Malacca, and the Chinese had established a government depot to protect the town from invaders from Siam, people we would now call Thais. By the time the Portuguese were in India, Malacca was a thriving trading post and ripe for a visit. The Portuguese saw no problem with just going over and taking Malacca. Malacca had become a sultanate. It was an Islamic town, and the Portuguese hated Islam. They had been fighting the Moors for 500 years on the Iberian Peninsula. Any chance to take something from them would be relished. So in 1511, they did just that. With the Portuguese commander, Alfonso de Albuquerque, reporting on arrival, if they were only to take Malacca out of the hands of the Moors, Cairo and Mecca would be entirely ruined, and Venice would then be able to obtain no spiceries except what her merchants might buy in Portugal. It only took a day for the Portuguese to take Malacca. I wonder how Malacca, which was such a powerful state at this time, could be taken so easily. My guess is that the continuing trade was probably more important than losing everything. Traders knew that whilst there was still some form of existence, there was hope. And speaking of hope, as I got to this point in our journey, I basically lost it. Hope, that is. My experience so far in finding a way to tell the story of nutmeg and solve the riddle I've been given has broken my rule to trad. The rule I had of not going down the rabbit hole. But to get here so far, I've gone down many. Learning more about the trade story, the history of it, and the undeniable truth that we as humans have technologically evolved faster than we have biologically because of it. But it is also one of our greatest forms of heartache, misery, suffering, and trauma. On the other hand, many wars have been averted by the promise of better trade, as well as the self-interest of differing parties to find a way to look after themselves. However, many wars and sufferings have also begun because of it, begun to protect the roots of trade, and I see so many wars around the choke points of trade. It's like the trade routes are arteries carrying the lifeblood of humankind. Some arteries are major, some minor, some mere veins leading to these. At certain parts of the world, areas that funnel trade through tighter spots because of their location and geography of the area from ancient times to now are strategically important to the flow of life-giving trade. And if these get blocked, access taken away, or attacked, the system shuts down very quickly, like a blocked artery in the body. It's like a heart attack or an aneurysm, and people will suffer until it is cleared. And that realization has been, to me, at once exhilarating in its essence. Here is how the world works, even though it's blatantly obvious. Watching the news now makes so much more sense to me. It also leads me to a profound sadness. What hope do we have? I didn't want to go down that rabbit hole. I wonder why nutmeg has led me there, and it feels a bit futile to try and recover myself and get to run. The global trauma I was feeling was hitting me hard. I see wars happening in the places that make sense now, people dying, families being torn apart, nations still talking about trade, and stock market reports on the news is bringing up personal stuff, and it's not pretty, especially at a time when another part of my life is being treated in a similar way, as I am directly affected by a government decision to cut back in an area encompassing one that I teach in the arts, film and story area, to concentrate on delivering more outcomes in what they cite as the trades. It's getting personal. But I've had a few days off and I'm back on the horse. It is real. My experiences are all the more reason to keep going and try and solve the riddles Trad keeps giving me. So, for centuries, nutmeg was taken west by Arab traders. And in fact, for a millennium, Arabs were trading in goods from India and goods from further away. And even before the Arab traders, there was trading with the East. Before I go any further, I'm intrigued to know how long ago nutmeg reached the Middle East. What I find, and it's all there too, by the way, you can look for yourselves, it's been there all along. I guess it's the context for which we look for things that makes them seem all the more remarkable. What I find is that archaeologists have found in the late 1970s, while digging the ruins of an ancient Sumerian city, Turka, just like the hidden jar of nutmeg at the back of the shelf, they find a small ceramic jar containing, no, not nutmeg, but close, very, very, very close. These archaeologists found in a jar cloves, and this jar of cloves was 3,700 years old. At that time, cloves only grew in one place, the Moluccan Islands, now part of Indonesia. And guess which island group is also in the Moluccas? You guessed it, the Banda Islands, home of Run, home of the true nutmeg. The Sumerians were accessing spices from the Spice Islands 3,700 years ago, and this is what we know for fact. If the cloves were there, I dare say nutmeg was there as well. How did these spices get there? The Sumerians were a civilization that lasted for approximately 3,000 years, and they were known for having the first great cities of the world, pioneering writing, governance and agriculture. The Sumerians inhabited the area of Mesopotamia between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, which we now refer to as the Fertile Crescent, encompassing of the modern countries of Iraq, Syria, Turkey, Iran and Kuwait. It is the shortest land path between the Mediterranean Sea and the Persian Gulf. So I don't know how they got there, but I know they definitely would have gone through there. "3,000 years ago, the region was dotted with rich and powerful cities, a time and place of massive technological advances and the birthplace of many modern myths and stories. It was a trading hotspot, a place where not only goods and treasures were traded, but I'm guessing also stories. Stories were bought to and sent from, swapped and modified, gods and deities reconfigured and reimagined and modified over time, and importantly for us now, written down. The Sumerians were among the first people to develop writing. The writing was called cuneiform and was etched into stone tablets. So far, over 500,000 tablets in varying conditions have been found, with more than 30,000 having been translated and published. Many of these tablets were for government administration and business accounts, but many of them were also cultural, dictionaries, myths, hymns and epic stories. Perhaps you've heard of the Epic of Gilgamesh. And everywhere there are proverbs. The Sumerian proverbs appear to utilise the symbolism of animals and their actions as metaphors for life lessons. Some read like riddles. The sun never leaves my heart, which surpasses a garden. Others are as plain as day, their meanings are clear. If a dog snarls, throw a morsel into its mouth. These proverbs were to pass on knowledge, to cement universal truths. And I've also read that Aesop's fables, attributed to the ancient Greek storyteller Aesop, may have originated from these original sayings and proverbs from the Sumerians. Stories passed along, stories traded. We often hear the saying that if you know someone's story, there is less of a chance that you will hate them. Or don't judge a book by its cover. Stories give us empathy towards people whose stories we know, truly know. Empathy.
It's only a word that we've came to us in the late 19th century. We never knew what empathy was. We all thought it was sympathy. That was the only word there was. Then this new word came into being, and I think some people will get a bit confused, because empathy is not a sympathy, Empathy is one of those things that comes in the duality. If you're very fearful, it'll remove your fears, which can now make you brave. You know what I mean? It's like that. And love is the pinnacle of that empathy. But allows us to be altruistic, to care or not care about things. But it's also like a radar. The further out it goes, the less we have empathy for.
I'm becoming a fan of our original metaphor. The story of nutmeg is the story of empathy. We haven't even explored its chemical properties or the story of its mystical qualities, but already the story of nutmeg is giving me a deeper understanding of my world. The riddles of nutmeg provided to me by Trad, who seems to have a deep knowledge of a story that I can't always get a map for directly from him, is there, in the history, the puzzle, has solutions. Many solutions. Not always direct, not always easy to find, but sometimes just jumping out at you where you least expect. I didn't expect stories to be part of the story, but I'm finding increasingly they are. Is the story of Nutmeg really the story of us? Our hunger, our fear, our endless need to connect? I think I know where this exploration, this story, is going. It's actually about connection through many paths, but I don't always know the right path to get there.
I'm getting what you're saying. It's kind of thing. It's not even an emotion, is it? It's just a core function of us.
Of us, yes. It's our most core of the functions. Our first thing we do, when anybody ever says anything to us or we ever do anything, it is whether our minds care or don't care. If we decide to care, we get a project together and we start thinking about how we're going to do it. If we don't care, we move on. Everything that is said to you and you think of is like that. It's passed through the barrier of empathy, which is caring or not caring. Empathy and apathy, yeah.
And that the stories we tell to each other allows us to not produce empathy, but to use our empathy, because the stories, when we know each other's story, we care about each other.
Yeah.
So it's like it's a really valuable tool we have to support empathy.
The most valuable tool we have, mate.
Telling a story.
Yeah. Yeah, if you don't understand someone's story, you can call them a bastard, but as soon as you hear their story, you may very well change your mind, eh? And we judge people without knowing their stories. You can't see behind a person's eyes, so don't be judge and jury. I tell many people that, eh?
Yep.
You know what I mean? They too have a story, mate. We all have. We're human. Yeah, and as you understand their story, and you'll get along far better.
Yes.
You'll understand people better.
Yes.
Yeah, but we all carry a story, mate. And some aren't good.
No, some aren't good and some are twisted. And that's what we're seeing. We've seen a lot of that now with media and everything going on. Like stories are being twisted.
Beyond belief, mate.
You know it. Like it's happening right now. We've just been listening to all sorts of shit stories for other ends to other means for other, needs and desires that we're not being told about.
Yeah, mate. It is full on.
And just today, a book arrived in the mail. It is from Trad. On the cover is a golden apple with the world etched into its skin. It is titled A Truth About Us, the explosive secret of our past, present and future, by Traditori Trudatori. I search for the meaning of this obvious pseudonym and I feel a little sick. Translators are traitors. I realise in this story, I am the translator, and I really hope I'm not being a traitor to Trad's truth. This is the secret story of Nutmeg.